I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. This episode, news just dropped. Ron Rivera has been fired by the Washington Commanders after 4 seasons with the team. We will be getting a new head coach at some point. There's also thought that we'll be getting a new general manager at some point, but for the time being, Martin Mayhew is still here. Marty Herney still here. So still a lot of shakeup to occur. But we're also going to get into Bob Myers and Rick Spielman being hired as advisors in this search process. So we got to begin with the big news, though, K-Dot, that Ron Rivera, again, after 4 seasons with the Washington Commanders, I mean, first the Redskins, then the football team, then the Commanders, 4 seasons, 26-40-1 is the official record. He did win the NFC East his first season. That's where we got introduced to Taylor Heinicke, bit of a roller coaster there. But could never quite figure out the quarterback position and started with pick 2 in 2020. We end with pick 2 here. I'm entering this 2024 draft. What do you make of it all?
It's just one of those things that it was due. I think nobody's surprised. No one is surprised by this. We watched the podcast all season. We've been waiting for this day. And you got to give credit to Josh Harris for sticking to his guns and waiting throughout the rest of the season. He had an idea in mind that he wanted to do as far as ousting Ron Rivera, and he seems like he stuck to it. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, it's funny you named Taylor Heinicke. I think he ends up being the most memorable thing that occurred in the Ron Rivera era, which is sad but fun and kind of par for the course. You look over the course the Dan Snyder era, and all you think is like so many things that might mean things to us but didn't necessarily translate into wins.
Right.
So you're just looking for what it is you can look for. But I mean, that's the thing. Ron's tenure here with Washington, I think everybody needs to make sure that they don't have revisionist history over when he came here in the first place. This was not an attractive job for anyone. No one wanted it. I mean, if you think about it, dealing with Dan Snyder alone is enough for anyone to be running the fuck away from the job, from the job description. Going through him having to spend the entire day with Joe Gibbs having to make sure that he felt okay enough to go, and then he accepts the job. And look, no matter what you think about the product on the field, absolutely subpar, not what you necessarily want. But what he was able to do behind the scenes, I mean, I know the bar was low, but Jesus Christ, nobody, since Joe Gibbs was here for 2.0, seems like everybody else is missing the fucking mark in the sense of this, the culture and the Ashburn, the whole headquarters, the organization was a mess. Yeah. And they kept hiring the wrong people. They kept getting to do a bunch of terrible shit. I mean, just go look through any of the fucking things, any of the crazy shit that's happened out of here, the sexual harassment allegations, emails from Bruce Allen to John, and like whatever it is you want to look at.
And if I could jump in there, that, you know, they're two cultures, if you will. I mean, ultimately it's supposed to be one. It's about winning football games. It's about Super Bowls. It's about sports. Right. But it was such a mess behind the scenes. And then, you know, all those Washington Post articles come out. You already knew about Dan Snyder being very impulsive and doing Lord knows what. I mean, that needed to be cleaned up too. So when remembering Ron Rivera as head coach here, his job was so much more than just the football stuff. And so it's just important to remember that as well. He also beat cancer while he was at it. I mean, my God, the guy did do a hell of a lot. It just didn't translate on the football field. It's okay for both things to be true. Okay, so it didn't work out from the football perspective. We wish him all the best moving forward. Heard Kyle Brandt say greens and fairways to him on NFL Network this morning, and so
and a year's worth of pay.
Worth of pay. So enjoy.
Good show.
Enjoy. But yeah, the business side, the just human side needed to be cleaned up, and it was.
Well, I think there's an aspect of you have guys that might be football guys that do not necessarily know how to manage a team. And if you listen to Ron in his press conference, even before this Cowboys game, when they asked him about what's been happening recently and how he's felt about it. And he said, what I felt for the last 3.5 years, I've been a manager. And now for the last 5 games, I've been a coach again. And if you look at that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. This is a dude that's supposed to just be a head football coach. Who you can look at his limited maybe ability to be a head football coach, but you can clearly see as far as being like a managerial thing, putting the right guys in place, having that culture, that communicative environment did not exist here. And it's just a guy who got picked to do the job that nobody wanted. We should be grateful that he came, grateful that he kind of stirred us through this shit, because it could have always been a lot worse. I don't necessarily see a lot of ways in which it could have been better, knowing how many people did not want to fucking be here. So I think people need to take everything with a grain of salt and realize what the expectations were for a team being led by Daniel fucking Snyder.
Yeah, we're not going to be the ones to like actively go, oh my God, yeah. Like you'll get plenty of that. Thank you, Ron, for coming over here, taking this non-attractive job. And the other side, kid, let's talk about moving forward, right? Yep. We now have the number 2 pick in the draft. So we had all the strength of schedule and will we win, will we lose, all that jazz. Number 2 pick in the draft. Anywhere from, depending on what estimates you look at, $75 million to $90 million in cap space. 5 picks in the top 100. So if you exclude the number 2 overall pick, that's still 4 other picks in the top 100. A new ownership group, probably a new GM, but nothing official. And now, see, this is the fun part, right? This is the fun part of the process.
I've been waiting for this, man.
We all have. We all have. Rick Spielman has been brought in as an advisor to help with this search process. A quick couple notes on Rick Spielman, very big part of the Minnesota Vikings organization, both as the VP of player personnel and then the general manager, and was the general manager for about 9-10 years there. Well-respected guy in the NFL community. This is where it gets interesting. Bob Myers was also brought in. And for those of you that are not just football fans, but also basketball fans, you will absolutely know that name. Bob Myers, a huge part of building the Golden State Warriors that you see today. That dynasty. Fun little fact, I've met him and actually emailed with him back and forth there for quite some time. So shout out Bob Myers. Made it on the show. Get out. This is different. This is, as you listen to more people in the know, it's unorthodox is the term that's being thrown around. So it's a lot of reaching out, Josh Harris and his connections, reaching out to various people and going, hey, what's the best way? What's the most efficient way? What should we be doing here? He is not the centerpiece like a David Tepper might be in Carolina. Right. He is going, hey, what should I be looking for? What should we be doing over here? Bob Myers in, Rick Spielman in. Seems like just a temporary advisor status role right now. Could be a long-term thing. Who knows? But K-Dot, what do you make of those moves?
Yeah, it's like the Avengers, right? So, like, looking at this statement from Josh Harris, I've asked Mitchell Rales, Irvin Magic Johnson, and David Blitzer, as well as Bob Myers and Rick Spielman, to help with the advisory committee that will work on making the best decisions for the franchise, with especially the 2 roles being the head of football operations and head coach, right?
Yeah.
This to me speaks to, holy shit, there's adults in charge, and there are adults that are doing stuff that I fucking adore, which is not following the trends and the rest of the bullshit that everybody else is doing, right? So, like, I know the NFL is a league full of non-original ideas. Okay, it worked for one.
It's a copycat league. They say it over and over again. It's a copycat league.
Very, very much. I think the closest thing you can look at with this is what the Cleveland Browns probably did years back with I think he's GM or at least VP of football operation, whatever, but Paul Podesta, who is, if anybody's seen the movie Moneyball, the character that Jonah Hill played was basically a sort of offshoot of who he was. But it's a guy who had success using analytics and stuff in baseball for years. And what they did was they said, all right, well, fuck it. Let's take you and move you over here to pilfer your brain because look, there are things that are just universally transferable. And that's what we talk about with the managerial stuff, right? There are things that you need with an organization that you need to run like a business.
Yes.
To make sure that things are operating in the right way. The way that Washington is built behind like the Dan Snyder era, and whether you get like a Bruce Allen or Vinny Serrato, whoever the fuck it is, right? Was much more ran like a good boys club than it was a business and an organization that really mattered as far as the culture. Like that to me speaks volumes that these guys are going to search high and low and be exhaustive in what it is they're doing to make sure that they get the right people in that can do the right things for the organization. And when you get a Bob Myers who built an incredible culture in Golden State, or at least had a hand in building a incredible culture in Golden State, and trust me, you're going to see a lot of people, he looked into the trades and this, that, and the other. That's not what this is about. This is not the X's and O's thing. This is
And
about
Steve Kerr.
they
I mean, come on.
right. It's
You
do they
know?
have the right people and the right mentality in the building to build that? And then you have a guy like Rick Spielman that could say, from a football perspective, hey, nope, you got to look out for this thing. You got to look out for that. To be able to have that football tinge to everything, to make sure that they're doing stuff in the right direction. So, like, this is it's the way I said the Avengers, right? Like, you're picking up all these dudes that are great in their respective fields
Right.
to come together and
if I
figure it out.
could, we talk about the importance of mindset on this podcast a whole lot. I think you're
Mhm.
going to see, hey, this is how the NBA thinks of things. This is how the NFL thinks of things, and seeing where you can sort of exploit maybe commonalities or, okay, the NFL should be thinking this way, for example. So I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. As a Commanders fan, it is your sole responsibility to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, honestly. Just buckle up, because this is not your typical coaching search. This is not your typical GM search. Again, like K-Dot said, when was the last time, just as a Washington fan, you were able to enjoy like this? Like, for the moment, enjoy the breath of fresh air that is what's happening right now. Okay, this is brand new. I've been telling people it's basically like we're an expansion franchise with a new ownership group. It's brand new. It really is. And you also have the number 2 pick, and you have all this cap space, right? It really lines up as an expansion team.
Right.
So a lot of good vibes around the team. I'm here to simply say enjoy them. And we'll see if this ends up being the correct approach or not. I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, they're going to get it all right. They're humans. Mistakes will be made, but it is a refreshing approach at the very least. And I just wanted that to be noted as well, K-Dot.
I think the thing is, I know that I said this after last season, or when we were doing the pods after Dan left or was leaving. This gives us an opportunity to be just a fan. Like the idea is, if you want to be really realistic with yourselves, right? We were never going to win a Super Bowl as long as Dan Snyder was the fucking owner of this team. It just wasn't going to happen. Like, you look at how close did we ever really get? Anytime that we made the playoffs, it was clawing and scraping our way
Honestly,
there.
the closest we got was RG3, and then he got hurt.
Potentially, right? Or you could say maybe the second.
This is the only time we ever felt like we could make the NFC Championship game, let alone the Super Bowl.
I thought the end of Joe Gibbs 2.0
yeah,
looking promising, especially if they had hired Greg Williams as coach, even though he would have been fired at some point out because we would have had our bounty gate. But
yeah.
Regardless, the idea would be that we never had that. We never had the ability to look at it and say, you were starting at such a disadvantage that the chasm you had to jump over in order to even be competitive in that realm was fucking crazy to me. It was an impossibility. What this gives us is an opportunity to kind of start from a base level like everybody else does, and just, hey, this is where we need to be. Josina Anderson, the journalist reporter, she put something in this quote that about this morning, and she said that one interesting note I was told from a start, blah, 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 blah. They will be looking for a coach that can create a lasting winning culture similar to the Patriots, Ravens, and Chiefs. If you've heard me on this podcast talk about that shit, right? Those are organizations that, even if they're having an off year, always feel like they're in the fucking dance. You look at those fan bases. They're rabid fan bases. Why? Because they believe they have a chance. They know they have a legitimate shot at this shit. We have not. We have not. We have not at all. So there needs to be, I understand the pessimism. I understand you've gone through 30 years of this shit, basically, because even the end of Jack Can't Cook, he wasn't fucking thinking, right? So, like, we've gone through 30 years of not feeling as though you have a legitimate shot at fucking anything, because you really didn't. And now, fucking finally, we got adults in the room. Finally, they're going to put together a team. It aggravated me all day yesterday looking at the locker room and hearing the comments from from fucking what's up, Logan Thomas and all those guys. Eric Bieniemy thing. This is not the way a team's supposed to be, guys. Like, give yourself, if there's anything you deserve for being a Commanders fan is the idea that you can have hope. Afford yourself that opportunity.
Forget the right thing being done. This is the first time the right thing's being said. That's how long it's been, right? That we're even getting the right thing said, out loud, which is crazy. That's how far in the abyss we've been. So once again, we continue to paint the picture of this is what it was. This side of my camera over here. This is what it was. You don't want this. You want this. And we're starting to get towards this. So again, there's going to be tons of information coming out, guys, as we continue through this process. But we wanted to quickly make this video just to let you know this is where we were. This is where we hope to be. This is what's being done to get to this point. And so we're going to go ahead and see what happens as the day progresses, as the weeks progress, but we will continue to update you guys with our thoughts, with the information we figure out, stuff like that, and be able to make sense of it all. One quick note on Rick Spielman is that his brother, Chris Spielman, is over with Detroit and has actually been a pretty big part of their rebuild. So expect that connection to also potentially be in play if we're looking at, Ben Johnson's been a name that's been thrown around. So like they'll at least be able to have that type of conversation, for example, or maybe Rex Ryan was talking about Aaron Glenn, Ray Agnew. The point is now these tentacles are all over the place. Like they are going to be able to talk to anybody and everybody. Okay, not mention the Avengers. Well, we've got connections everywhere and it's super cool. Super cool.
And I would just add, if you think that the news coming out today about the guys that are being involved who haven't been actively involved in much recently means that we're just starting these conversations or just starting this search,
It's
out of
been
your fucking
happening.
mind. This stuff has been ongoing for a while. So you can know they're coming correct. Breathe easy, guys. Like, let's have this offseason is going to be the most fucking fun any of us have had.
You've earned it.
For quite some
You've
time.
all earned it.
And
You've
we've earned the ability to enjoy this shit and have some hope.
So because we unfortunately have this very quick hard stop, we got to dip. But this was District Divided DC Sports Podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. We will get to the comment mailbag in our next episode when there's more time. We will get to those. We really appreciate you guys always for commenting. I am Amit. That is K-Dot. If you enjoyed the episode today, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and we will get to those. And K-Dot,
share this shit and have some hope.
Have some hope. And I want to do just a couple quick birthday shout outs. One to Monsieur X. Happy belated birthday. We love and appreciate you, bud, for always listening and commenting on occasion.
Loser. He knows what it means.
And then Ridge, where your helmet at? Brother, love you. A very, very happy birthday to you today. All right. Enjoy the day today. I know. There it is. We appreciate you guys. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Until then, take it easy.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.